NFL Divisional Weekend. We waited all year for it. It's finally here. X Factors, Y Factors, the factors that will decide the games. And for Ravens Bills specifically, can they hang the MVP over the field on the Skycam line and just lower it after the game? It's the game of the year. Let's go around the horn. I know I've said that before, but I've meant it every time. I really have. But this is the game of the year, of the week.
You just lived in a blessed era.
Marcel, you should hire me as a violinist.
I'll call it the MVP game. I know it doesn't apply, but it's a de facto MVP game in hand-to-hand combat. Jackson versus Allen. But of course, they don't match up against each other, so the defense for both teams versus those quarterbacks. The chess match of the two coaches, Harbaugh and McDermott, and the effect of that week where Baltimore did everything they wanted and won the game going away. Derrick Henry ran for 199 yards. Also, one more thing to note here. This looks like it'll be a weather game. Temps in the teens and snow showers. Bill, you're a Bill. This coming down to Allen and Lamar, or is there a different X factor in the game of the week of the year?
Yeah, there are other X factors here. You mentioned Derrick Henry ran for 199 yards, but I would say the X factors are the guys who were not chasing after Derrick Henry on those plays. The starting Bills linebackers, Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard, who did not play in that first game between these two teams. Not only did Derrick Henry run for nearly 200 yards in that game, but the two touchdown passes Lamar Jackson threw were both to players who were being covered by backup Bills linebackers. So get those starting linebackers back in the fold. Matt Milano was a spy against Bo Nix last week. Can't do that against Lamar Jackson, but if they're mobile, they can chase down Derrick Henry, slow down Lamar Jackson. That's a way for the Bills to get back in this game and not get blown out this time around.
Couple ifs in there, and I didn't really ascertain which way you're leading in the game, but I'll get to that. Marcel Louis-Jacques, the X factor you're drilling down on.
Yeah, one name that Bill didn't mention who's coming back for the Bills is nickelback Taron Johnson. He might be the best nickel corner in the NFL. It was kind of a trial by committee or replacement by committee when he wasn't there in week 4, and you saw the results. The Bills love playing their defensive backs, right? 5 or more DBs on the field on 96% of their defensive snaps this season. That's great. It gives you a lot of speed. They're always willing to tackle. But there's a sentient refrigerator in the backfield for Baltimore this week who averaged 10.7 yards per carry the last time they put 5 or more DBs on the field. So that's going to be a problem. That's something that Sean McDermott's going to have to decide. Do we stay true to our identity, or do we try to adjust come playoff time? I've still got the Bills at home, though. Something about that snow and that cold just activates those guys up there.
David Dennis Jr., I want an X factor first.
Well, you know what I don't want to do, what I wouldn't want to do in the snow or cold? Is tackle Derrick Henry, because that seems like a very painful thing to do, which is why one of the reasons why he is the X factor here. Even if you replace the Bills players with some of those healthy players that were missing earlier, he had 200 yards rushing. Even if you break that in half, that's, the Ravens are still 11-0 when he has more than 90 yards rushing. But there's a trickle-down impact of Derrick Henry rushing well for that Ravens team. They're also undefeated when Lamar Jackson throws for fewer, which means that he can set the pace, he can set some of those nerves that Lamar Jackson has admitted to dealing with, and he can take the ball out of Josh Allen's hand, which is just as important for that Ravens defense. So pardon me for saying the obvious, it's Derrick Henry as the X factor.
And Courtney Cronin, your X factor.
Derrick Henry was great the last time these two teams played. Lamar Jackson as a runner was not. There was something they said on the broadcast last week against the Steelers that really stuck out to me, was that Lamar was actually further back in the shotgun to give him those better running lanes. 81 rushes on 15 attempts. I think that that's going to be the key here against the weather and the elements. It'll be the coldest game he's ever played in, and with the snow and other weather factors factoring in, Lamar and his legs against a defense that's given up 0.45 EPA per design rush or scramble, that's above, or rather below league average. That's going to be the critical factor here, not just on Derrick Henry, how efficient Lamar's been.
So your X factors. Everything you just said could also apply to Josh Allen. Isn't that the case? Marcel, you already gave it. You cut to the chase, and you already told us you like the Bills because of the weather and the home field. Please expound.
I've personally seen that. I spent a couple years in Buffalo, and the last snow game I covered, Dolphins-Bills, a couple years ago, even game. That snow started falling, and it was like the Mario star falling from the sky, and it just turned them on. Something about playing at home, under the lights, in the elements. Josh Allen turns into a superhuman. That's really an X factor I can't believe we didn't mention.
Bill, please tell us how this game will be won.
Yeah, I seem to recall the Bills getting blown out or really losing comfortably to the Bengals in the snow in the postseason a couple years ago. So I would say there's maybe Ravens can play in the snow. You can run the ball in the snow. This team does not have to throw the ball. Josh Allen and the Bills are the team that throws the ball way more often than the Ravens. So I think the conditions would favor the Ravens here. I'd lean Baltimore.
Courtney, who you got?
Let's talk about the run defense of the Ravens. It's better than the Buffalo Bills. I think they will do a better job containing Josh Allen on the road. Ravens advance to the AFC Championship.
And David Dennis Jr.?
Yeah, the Ravens smacked the Bills, as we recall, earlier in the season, and the Bills have not shown enough improvement. The Ravens have not shown enough deterioration to make it that much of a difference. I got the Ravens.
Those are the picks. We'll move on now to Rams-Eagles. When they met in November, it was Saquon Barkley for 255. Philly 37, LA 20. But like you guys always tell me, those were different teams then. And both these teams, more than the others remaining in the playoffs, an affinity for a little Jekyll and Hyde. So, what the Rams defense did to a 14-win team last week, and they do that again in back-to-back weeks to a 14-win team this week. Courtney, what matchup do you think most dictates how Sunday goes?
So I really thought we were going to see a course correct here from the Eagles, kind of like we did in that Steelers game after the passing comment was made, because this was one of the more inefficient passing games that we've seen in the playoffs, the way that it went against the Packers last week. But an amateur meteorologist informed me that it's going to be snowing from 9:30 a.m. until 8 p.m. in South Philadelphia this weekend. This is going to be shades of Shady McCoy 2013, 217 rushing yards, which was then a franchise best record against the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford was the quarterback then. This is the
All
Saquon
right, so
Barkley
you're saying
game
running the ball again.
You guys, defensive rushing rate.
I love meteorology. I mean, maybe my next career I'll be a meteorologist. But you guys are really drilling down on the weather in these games. David Dennis Jr., around the horn to you.
I think this matchup is going to be won on the Rams defensive line versus that Eagles offensive line. The Rams defense, 23rd in the league in defense rush success rate. They're not going to be getting to Jalen Hurts in the same way that they got to Sam Darnold last week. I think the Eagles are going to control that line of scrimmage, and they're going to control the game as a result.
Marcel Louis-Jacques, the matchup you're drilling down here on.
That line of scrimmage is important because when you look at the Rams' run defense, bottom 10 in yards per game and yards before contact. And the before contact metric is important. It's a direct reflection of how you're controlling at the point of attack. The Eagles, on the other hand, top 5 in yards per game, yards per rush, yards before contact. They will bully you on the line of scrimmage. If they're able to do that again, it's curtains for L.A.
Wow, curtains. This was a team L.A. last week. That defense that you are now, you're critiquing a little bit, looked impenetrable last week. As Sam Darnold, Bill Barnwell around the horn to you.
Yeah, I go back to the Vic Fangio-Sean McVay matchup. Remember a few years ago, Vic Fangio was the one who came up with that 6-man front to take away the Rams. Zone running scheme slowed them down in the regular season. Bill Belichick copies that in the Super Bowl. Rams get shut down, only score 3 points. Send Sean McVay into a tailspin. He has to change his entire offense. They go from being a zone-based offense, zone-based run game, to a gap-based run game. Well, Tony, guess what's the best defense in football against gap runs this year by EPA per play? It is Vic Fangio's Philadelphia Eagles.
I hear what you're saying.
He's already a step ahead of the run game.
Maybe you fall in love with the team when you see them play so well just 6 days ago. But everybody has Philadelphia here. This was a game I was flagging. I was expecting someone to pick an upset here. Not in this one. All right, let's see. Still on the search for an upset. We'll move on. Commanders-Lions. I'm going to predict this is the 4th down game of the weekend. Over under 8 go-for-its on 4th down between Campbell and Quinn in this one. When I asked the panel earlier this week, they said this was the game they may be flagged for an upset because Jaden Daniels versus the Lions defense was one reason. Other side of the ball, Lions offense and run game versus Washington's defense might have you thinking another way here. So the biggest spread of the weekend is Detroit over Washington. How does that sit with you, Marcel? What do you see happening here?
You know, Tony, I think this one has the clearest path to the upset of any game this weekend. Detroit, it's got shootout potential, first of all, right? Detroit was a top 10 scoring defense, but they love to blitz. 37% of their opponent's offensive snaps is the second highest rate in the NFL. Jaden Daniels, though, against the blitz, 12-1 touchdown to interception ratio, completes 63% of his passes. And if the receiver's not there, we've seen how he could run, 920-something rushing yards this year. The Lions defense allows the second most yards per scramble to quarterbacks this season. If it's close, this is the rare scenario where I think not only am I taking the lower seed, I'm taking the rookie quarterback.
Bill Barnwell, how does everything Marcel just said sit with you?
I agree with everything Marcel just said. I'd even point out, if you were going to build a quarterback in a lab to take on this Lions defense, the quarterback you would build is Jaden Daniels, who can beat the blitz, who can scramble, and who has been the fourth best quarterback in football this year against man coverage, a situation the Lions run more than anybody else in football over the second half of the season. And then on top of that, the one thing the Commanders do way more than anybody else in football, no huddle, 3 times as much as anybody else in the league. That's the exact thing you'd want to do against a tired, exhausted, injury-hit Lions defense.
Well, they're not exactly tired at this moment. They just had a week off, but I understand what you're saying.
It's been a long year.
It's been a long year. That's been the most injured unit in the NFL. But they did get a little bit healthier in that bye week. Courtney Cronin, around the horn to you.
The Lions are one of the most man-heavy teams and blitz-happy teams in the NFL right now. That's left them vulnerable against quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels. They're giving up 6.2 yards per rush to opposing quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels averages 6 yards a rush. And he's been perfect on 3rd down and 4th down. Highest QBR in the NFL. Let's point out the obvious here. Every time the stage gets bigger, he gets better. While I do think this is a shootout, I'm ultimately picking the Lions here. Jaden Daniels is going to have a great game. It's going to be a close one.
I thought we were about to go unanimous here, that we were leaning Washington in this game. The Lions are vulnerable in this place. They've been vulnerable all year in that place. They still have the best record in the NFL, in the NFC. Go ahead, David Dennis Jr.
You guys do realize that the Lions offense takes the field as well as the Commanders defense. Like, that happens in football games too, right? And the Lions passing game is 6 DVOA, and the Commanders pass defense is 20th. The Lions rush is 2nd DVOA, and the Commanders defense is 26 against the rush. And they also run a lot of man cover, and Goff is the best at that, best quarterback at that. That offense is going to have a lot to say in this game too.
Courtney, why are you shaking your head?
That's just a lot of numbers.
Yeah, it was a little bit number heavy.
And
did I detect a look off camera there while reciting some of those numbers, David Dennis Jr.? Might have to go back and check the film.
Kevin Clark carries a notepad. Get out of here with that.
All right, well, make a pick for the game here. I know you guys argued Washington could do it. Bill, who you got?
Lions.
Marcel.
I'm taking the Commanders. Let's go upset.
David.
Ooh, the Lions.
Courtney.
Lions.
Buy or sell next. Our wraparound divisional weekend concludes here with Texans, Kansas City. Champs, nothing but close wins this year. You know this. But when these two met in Week 16, it didn't really come in the last second, right? This is 8 points, one of KC's bigger wins this year. But when the champs have been susceptible in this dynasty run, it happens when they commit turnovers. And Texans just put together a game where they were taking passes from Justin Herbert like they were handoffs. Courtney, what decides this one tomorrow?
Well, speaking of turnovers, the Chiefs haven't committed one in 7 games, so I think that certainly works in their favor. Texans are going to want to use the same formula that they used to beat the Chargers with, Joe Mixon in his ankle, not 100%, sounds like he's going to play. I think they lean on the run, but again, Kansas City has a really good run defense, so I'm going with the reigning champs.
David Dennis Jr.
The problem here for the Texans is the matchup of C.J. Stroud versus that Chiefs blitz. Pardon me for more numbers, but C.J. Stroud is 24th EPA versus the blitz, and the Chiefs blitz a lot. In fact, Chargers fans, cover your ears. Just last week, he was only blitzed on 9 dropbacks, and he had 2 sacks and an interception in that time. He's going to struggle against that
David,
Chiefs
you were
defense.
staring into the soul of the camera lens, giving those stats. There you go, man. Marcel Louis-Jacques.
Yeah, I want to feed off of that blitz a little bit because what's Houston's counter to that? It's more than just C.J. Stroud, right? Can this offensive line hold up? They've struggled to protect him throughout the season. And most importantly, what wide receiver, what pass catchers are going to step up? We know about Nico Collins, and so does Spags. So he is going to be double covered. Who's the next guy? Is it going to be Robert Woods? Is it even a wide receiver? Are we going to see maybe a Dalton Schultz step up? Chiefs struggle against the tight ends. There's more than just C.J. Stroud struggles against the blitz here, and I don't know if Houston has the answer.
Bill Barnwell.
Yeah, are we not going to talk about the Chiefs' offense at all in this playoff preview? I mean, they got Hollywood Brown back for that Texans game. Only 14 routes in that game. He got 8 targets. That is a big addition to that offense, who's going to be healthier now after spending 3 more weeks away from the game. Also, Joe Tooney is reportedly going to start at left tackle. The offense got much better once they had something that wasn't a turnstile in Wanya Morris at left tackle, so a better Chiefs offense is going to help them win this game.
Everyone yell it all at once. Who you got?
Chiefs.
We'll move on. Buy or sell to NBA last night. Thunder beatdown of the Cavaliers. 134-114. It was not as close as that final. It was over by the end of the first, and over again in the end of the second, and over again in the third. Runs on runs on runs. 40 points in 29 minutes for SGA. Series now 1-1 for the season of these two best teams in the league. David, the last night's win tipped the scale in Thunder's favor.
Yeah, if I'm the Cavs, obviously there's a lot to be concerned about with basically a 40-point blowout, but there are 2 things that concern me the most. One is they dominated with the bigs in the first matchup, but OKC went small and basically played them off the court. Second is Donovan Mitchell, 6 for 31 in the 2 times that he's played against the OKC Thunder. He's going to have to do better, and that Lou Dort is giving them a whole lot of trouble, and that's something that could carry on if they meet in the finals.
MLJ.
Lou Dort, you know where he went to school, baby? Sun Devils, we're everywhere. Now, he is the Donovan Mitchell stopper. What's scary about this is that it doesn't feel like the Thunder were shorthanded at all. It just felt like they played a different game without their 2 big men. So this is maybe the blueprint of how to beat the Cavs if they meet them in the finals. Most impressive, though. 30 points off turnovers. It's their 8th time this season scoring 30 points off turnovers. That's incredible defense.
Bill Barnwell.
Yeah, this is a win that tells you it's time to start talking about this Thunder team as a historically good basketball team. Through 40 games, 3rd best point differential of any team in NBA history, behind the 71 Lakers and the 2015 Spurs. That's better than any of the mid-90s Jordan teams that won 70 games, the Warriors that won 70-plus games, better than any of those teams. And that was with taking basically the 4th quarter off because they were up 40 in the 3rd quarter. A historically good team.
Courtney Cronin.
Their high-level defense has been critical for their offense. I mean, we've seen it in 4 straight wins in a calendar week. And what everybody has said about like them missing pieces but not really missing a beat, let's not forget Isaiah Hartenstein wasn't playing in this game. We know Chet Holmgren isn't there. That didn't seem to matter for the front court whatsoever. And those 30 points off of 21 turnovers, offense fueled by defense, this is what's fueling Oklahoma City to be
I
the
looked
best
at
team
the
in
roster
NBA.
yesterday because, as you said, they were still missing guys. I looked at the age next to all the ages. I looked at their future draft picks, and I'm thinking, whoa, what do we have here? CC, MLJ, thank you for your time. DD, J, BB. That's our SD. Next.
Đến với kênh YouTube của mình, video ngày hôm nay của mình sẽ là những video tô mò. Đây, những video tô mò của những sản phẩm con vật đây các bạn ạ. Đây là con chim cánh cụt này, mình tô rất chi là nhiều con vật. Ở đây con cá sấu này, nhiều lắm. Các bạn hãy cùng theo dõi mình tô những sản phẩm nha. Đây. Và để tô được sản phẩm của mình không thể nào thiếu được hộp săn mò. Đây là hộp săn mò của mình, thường dùng này. Nó phụ trợ cho mình tô mò sản phẩm. Và bây giờ các bạn cùng theo dõi mình tô mò nha.
Bây giờ mình sẽ tiếp tục tô mò các bạn.